We must stop NIO. They are running up too fast. We cannot have stealth wealth investors making this much money. Delist all Chinese companies immediately. We will do what the short sellers could not do. NIO and all Chinese companies are going to zero.
I am Morpheus, and I was sent here to save everyone from the evil forces trying to steal your wealth. I know your positions have taken a beating this past couple of days, but I will give you the truth on how this legislation is not what it seems, and the hidden intent behind it, and how you can profit massively from it all. If you are ready to learn the hard truth, like the video, and let's go. So why have these stocks sold off massively the past couple of days? The news of legislation already passed in the Senate, and with the House expected to pass it as well, this legislation requiring Chinese companies to conform with far more invasive audit requirements is expected to cause disruption of Chinese companies listed on the US exchanges, possibly leading to those stocks being delisted altogether. Essentially, companies would need to prove they are not under the control of the Chinese government and let the PCAOB, or the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, to audit Chinese companies listed on the US exchange. Now, China has not reacted kindly to this legislation, pushing back and essentially saying they see no need to comply with this requirement. So you have the US getting ready to pass a bill saying Chinese companies need to be more transparent and pull back more of the curtain on companies listed on the US exchanges, and China telling the US to basically kick rocks. So that feeds this mania over Chinese companies being delisted and selling pressure pushing these stocks lower. But guess what? There's actually more to this than meets the eye. The fact is, this legislation is not what it seems and is actually part of a much larger, much more complex, and really odd relationship that we have with China. Even if everything passes tomorrow, China has 3 years to comply. Now, if our officials in the US really wanted this legislation to have any teeth at all, it would put the requirement out there for Chinese companies to comply immediately or at the latest next year. But no, they get 3 years to comply. And the reason why is actually quite simple if you're looking beyond the political rhetoric and view this with the lens of how our relationship with China actually works. As much as we here in the US like to think that the US can stand on its own and China could go away tomorrow and the US would just not be affected at all, the reality is nothing could be further from the truth. And the same goes for China with the US. The US and China are both codependent on each other to maintain their economies and stature as the world's 2 undisputed big dogs on the economic front. So if the US really wanted this bill to have teeth, it would accelerate the timeline. But it doesn't. And here is the hard truth of this legislation. All the US did was say this to China. Basically, let's negotiate and come to an agreement to avoid a luck and coffee type situation again. The US obviously doesn't want that to happen again to investors, and really neither does China. Because it's a bad look for China, and they don't want that since they want more foreign investment coming into China. But on the flip side, China also doesn't want to show weakness by bending to the will of the US. And quite honestly, they do have leverage as well given how dependent we are on them. So they will never just agree to having their companies scrutinized like US companies, but they will negotiate and not hold a hard line when this is all said and done. So this bill will change and be negotiated over the next few years and ultimately will not look the same as it does right now in a few years when Chinese companies will need to actually comply. So this recent sell-off is more of a mixture of misunderstanding of the mechanics of the bill, combined with many people not understanding how our relationship with China actually works, and investors just throwing money at the latest hottest EV play without actually understanding what they're investing in. So when a sell-off occurs, those investors panic and dump en masse. But that just screams opportunity in my eyes. First, if you don't have a plan, check out Luke's course link down in the description as it's on sale for a limited time, and work directly with him to help you create a plan for yourself. And second, this is exactly what you've been waiting for if you have been looking to buy or add to your positions with these stocks. Now, how much further could it fall? Well, think about what the stock has done recently. It has enjoyed massive gains on pretty much no news outside of a great earnings report last quarter. But the great earnings report doesn't justify that big of a move up, so a pullback was expected. But you add in the news of this legislation being voted on, traders selling off, people who think they are investors but act like traders selling off as well, and then others piling into the panic selling that is happening, and you have a recipe for a larger sell-off than there should be, which is actually great news for us long-term investors. So you are now getting the discount that you wanted. And since I know no one can accurately time the market, I will just continue to buy small batches on red days and dollar cost average into the Chinese companies I believe in, which, for me as Morpheus is NIO, obviously. And if we get a crazier pullback than expected, then I will just increase my batch size of buys. Either way, I think in a year I will be very happy that I added on this pullback because of the overreaction in the market due to the lack of understanding of what is really going on. And their loss is our gain.